Thank you very much. So I've been taking notes from the two previous presentations. I tried to fill in some of the gaps I think I can see. So there's no doubt that the world is an evolving and really complex set of ideas, interests, etc. So it's not easy. That's the first thing. It's not easy to identify the most important challenges we face today, and therefore those who provoke them or who benefit from them, namely our ideological opponents, which is the title of this lecture. And it is very important because in order to, as Jorge just said, in order to fight this battle, we need to know who we should fight and why, and well, the how comes always a bit later. We can discuss this later on if you want. So as I see it, there are three, not one, but three battlefields. Now the ideological opponent is the same, but it plays out differently in these three different battlefields insofar as the shape it takes and the strategy it follows, it's also different. So let me briefly outline the three, because I know we don't have much time, and I really want to, I'm looking forward to listening to your thoughts in the Q&A. So first, you know, the usual suspect, especially in this course, would be the left, which is always radical in its nature, though not always in practice. Well, today it is. So mainstream leftism is pretty much radicalized, I would say. And that makes it a formidable opponent that we should take really, really seriously. That's why all of those who think that the culture war and the politics, doesn't really apply or affect them, they are, dead wrong to think that. Now, contrary to what we heard yesterday, I don't think the left is really concerned anymore with equality. I think their current obsession, as Jorge just mentioned, is identity. So the whole agenda of dividing societies into collectives or tribes where individuals don't matter at all, that's not the pursuit of equality. Quite the contrary. As a matter of fact, dividing along racial or sexual features is by definition anti-egalitarian. So the new fetish of the left is identity, not equality. Okay, so our goal, which is not the point of this lecture, but our goal should be to go back to equality with that surname, equality before the law, which was a pretty good outcome, I think. So as we all know, the left needs to divide and conquer, or divide to conquer, right? So fracturing societies and then try to instrumentalize these collectives and to fight them or confront them and use that dynamic of confrontation to its own interest. This is what the left does best, right? Now, thanks to liberal democracy, free market, etc., prosperity in general, they can no longer divide societies along the lines of, the working class and capitalists, etc. So, hence, let us create collectives. Let us, have them fight to each other. And that's the whole point also of identity politics, which is what Jorge just referred to as well. Now, the second battlefield I think we should be aware of is a bit counterintuitive, because my concern is also, I'm really concerned about the reaction, actually, of the right to this radicalization of the left. I'm speaking now of the right as a whole. This is not very strict terminology speaking, okay? But the right as a whole. So I'm afraid we cannot just imitate what the left has done over the past few years or few decades. So we cannot use education, we cannot use public institutions. Jorge just mentioned neutrality. We cannot police speech. at least not without any regard for freedom. I know many of you would disagree with me because, I mean, to balance the whole, battlefield, there needs to be some degree of push to the opposite direction, right? But we have to be really careful because we have to factor in individual freedom, which is something that the left doesn't do. And in that sense, some would say that they have a competitive advantage over us. But I think we have to be better. So we cannot also play our own identity politics game, okay? Which is a normal reaction, okay? Fueled by discontent from all those who don't get to participate into those oppression Olympics, or who rank really low at the bottom of the hierarchy of victimism. Okay? I know there is a temptation there. I think we should resist that temptation and be smarter insofar as it is required for us to do something different, something else, to fight the good fight. Okay? We have to aspire for more. We cannot afford not to be better than our enemies. Okay? And that leads me to my third point, which is something that we often, I don't think we think about this long enough, often enough, which is that of virtue. So we are really, we are professionally very much invested into the fight of ideas and policy and politics, etc. But we also have to think introspective to some extent, and to nurture virtue. Because we cannot have a good system. We won't have a good system without good people in it. As simple as that, okay? So we have to realize that we need, more than anything really, is to have a virtuous citizenry, okay? That's actually what we at Civismo are going to do next week in our Freedom School, right here at the L'Escorial, okay? We are, getting together a number of undergraduate students to have them, explore who they are, okay, to get to know them, okay, and try to release their own, their full potential to some extent, okay. And I think that's very much needed. So as I said at the beginning, the enemy is the same in these three battlefields. The enemy is the enemy of freedom, okay, both in our opponent's camp and sometimes in our own camp, okay, among our friends who are, having this temptation of just doing what the left has done, some retaliation, okay. Now, contrary to what we heard yesterday in Professor Schwartz's lecture, I think that negative freedom is not enough. I don't think that freedom from coercion, from intervention, etc., is enough. We need some positive freedom as well. Freedom to pursue happiness, some would say, to pursue our own conception of the good life, to get to heaven, in case you have in case you're Christian, etc. So, in other words, freedom ought to be seen not as some liberals or within the liberalism camp would say, an end in and of itself, but a means to a different end, a better end. Okay, and I think that's also where virtue plays its role. And therefore, that's what I think it's so important. Again, we cannot have a good system without good people, regardless of them being right-wingers or leftists, okay? And that's something that the left really needs to understand, hopefully, okay, with its moral relativism, etc. But also, as I said before, the rights. Thank you very much.